Okay. So my name is Michaela Chase.
And I'm Katie Call.
And this is our Amazing Grace worksheet. First off, I really love this movie a lot. It really touched my heart.
Yeah, had you seen it before? No, me neither.
I really.
Yeah, at first, I'm not gonna lie, when I saw that it was a 2-hour movie, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's gonna be so hard to watch. But I was really into it. It was such a good movie, and like you said, it touched my heart. Like I was crying at the end. I'm like, why am I crying? But it was so good.
It really was. I really enjoyed it. So we'll just start with the first question then. Is what doctrine in Wilbur's heart drove him to advocate? Why is this doctrine of the family so important to have in your heart, to be passionate and persistent?
So for that one, I really just put that he understood that men are created equal and that we are all children of God. And I felt that in that it added to his desire and passion to prove to other people, to help them understand the same concept, that it doesn't matter where you're from or what color your skin is, that we all are children of God and that we should be treated equal, and that and just to make other people understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. What I first started off with is just in one part, he said like, oh, so you found God. It's like, no, God found me. And so once I found God, he started turning to that, like wanting to help people and understanding the struggles that they went through, and relating this kind of to our majors. The proclamation, the family proclamation to the world is something we should have in our hearts. Like that's something he's so passionate about, and he was persistent to do. So we should be passionate and persistent about that, and wanting to understand. And also, it's kind of like his title of liberty. The proclamation is our title of liberty to hold up to that.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I think the other thing is that he was so persistent. I mean, like it darn near killed him, and he still just kept going. I thought that was pretty amazing.
It really was. He was just so passionate. Okay, next question. How did Wilbur employ a theoretical approach to become a more effective advocate? Identify at least one thing in each system and be specific. So if you just want to both start with the microsystem, what did you get for that one?
So for the micro, that he didn't have any black servants or slaves in his own home, is what I noticed. Is that he had his butler was white and his cook was white, and they weren't slaves. They were hired servants.
Yeah, I didn't even pick up on that, but that's true. And then he's inviting everyone in, and I also just said that he had family and friends who had similar to that, so they worked together and they wanted that. Okay. What about the mesosystem?
Let's see what I did for that one. Sorry, sometimes my Word documents kind of disappear. So let's see.
Oh, that's fine. I understand.
Okay, so for this one, I put that they went to his organization went to different communities to talk about what the issue is, and that even that there was an issue and why it was.
That's basically what I say. Like he would go to meetings and be prepared to share his findings and progress he has made, and then with that, he was able to convince the other people kind of on his board and to agree and sign.
I thought at the dinner party when they very first met, there was the Reverend John Ramsey, and he said, if you want to make the world if you make the world better in one way, it becomes better in every way. And I thought that really fell well into this question, because it starts small, or you do it in one way and then it trickles into other places.
I agree. Okay, with the exosystem, I had for a while they had known about slavery and how things are going, but Wilbur had fought to get this normal change. So it was the norm to have the slavery in like the whole community, but and he was able to kind of switch that norm around and be like, this isn't okay, and kind of fought against that. And he was taking, up everyone who already had lived a certain way for a while.
And I thought on that one too is that, because that kind of falls under industry, how some stores only started selling sugar that wasn't made in the West Indies. So like because of that, it kind of went into the industry and things like that. I thought that was really
cool. Okay, and then the last one, ecosystem. It changed a lot of living perspectives for people. It changed his life and his family and friends, but also changed the living for the Black people in their community and not having that anymore. And then it, like later down history, we can see how this affected the whole world. Like just everybody's having these slaveries, and then I think he was taking steps in his community, which I think helped throughout the history and how we were able to stop slavery in all different continents.
Yeah. Well, because at that time, I mean, the British Empire was the most powerful in the world, and so a lot of people followed through with it, and like what you also said about the Black community in Jamaica. I'm trying to think when it was, but there was a story. I can't remember who came back from the West Indies, but he came back with a story about there was a mother and a son who were getting beaten in a coffee field, and they said, just hold on, King Wilberforce is coming. And I thought that was really interesting how his involvement in somebody that they never met has absolutely changed. Like that's kind of created a sense of resiliency for them, that something is being done for them and that change is coming just eventually, Yeah.
It was this new hope that they were able to have and understand that, like, it will be okay.
Yeah.
Okay, question 3. How did Wilbur and his fellow advocates do and share their research? What evidence did they provide to persuade those opposing or on the fence? Some points that I had were they had a member who he was Black, and he was able to write his experiences. Like he talked about how before the slavery, he was like a kid higher up, and he was able to write about his little story and share with that, and then what he had to go through because he personally saw it. And then I put about how they had the signatures of all the people who wanted to abolish slavery, that big old long list.
Yeah.
It was so good. And then my last point is they shared facts on how this affected and how it was wrong when they were on the boat and they were going past that older boat, and it just smelled so bad. And just to personally give that witness to people, like smell it, see it, is what's happening. And so they're able to really personalize with that.
Yeah. And what I thought was interesting about that is that if I remember, like they were going past that boat anyway, right? On their little cruise, on their whatever, but the captain got closer to the boat. So I thought it was interesting that like he was bringing to the attention of a higher class that they go past this stuff every day, and it's time to stop and look at it and ask ourselves what's going on with it, and if it's right, and if it's not right, what we can do to fix it. So that was one thing that I put. And then I put, of course, the signatures, the petitions, the badges that people wore. And then I pulled this quote out where they talked about how they were gathering evidence for the Parliament. They went to Bristol, Liverpool, Plymouth, and they talked to the different men who worked on the slave ships so that they could report the different conditions. They talked to the doctors on the ships who treated the slaves. And then they talked to the slaves themselves who had been whipped and branded. And then, of course, Equanio, he wrote his book. And then he said that he sold 50,000 copies in 2 months. That's what I put.
Yeah, just the spreading of the words in person.
Yeah.
Okay. Question 4. How does the film portray the importance of working together as a group? What has family advocacy group work taught you?
So for this one, let me read through it really quickly because I can't remember what I put yesterday. Okay. So in the beginning stages of the group, if you remember, they were kind of conflicted within the group of how, like, they all had the same desire to stop slavery. That's better. But the other intentions were different. Some of the people in the group were more understanding of the reason behind slavery, like why it started, and they understood why some people chose to support it, and that bothered. I'm having a hard time with names. The main dude, not the main dude.
Wilbur?
No, the strong dude. I'll come across his name in a minute. I should have written it down. Sorry. He was like the lobbyist.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it kind of made him upset. So there was a lot of bickering within the group at first, in that first meeting. But then I think when they came together with the common goal of ending slavery is when, like, their true purpose and their true goal and, like, the group started to find synergy and really work together. And so what I said that taught me was that there's strength in numbers, and that facing a challenge is much easier when you know that people are on your side, even if there's just a handful, just to know that you're backed by people with the same goal as you. It really makes it a lot easier to speak up for what you believe. And the other thing I really thought was interesting that I learned was Wilbur was really, I mean, obviously he was really passionate about it, but there came a time when his health was failing so much that it probably wasn't best for him to be out there doing it. And he was talking to William Pitt and saying, I don't trust anybody else to do it. Like, you really have to have trust in your group that we're all, like, you're all on the same page and that we all want the same thing, because there's going to be times when it's better for somebody else to stand up in a different forum and speak, like if they have common ground with the people they're speaking to or whatever. So I thought that was something that stood out to me that I hadn't thought of before.
Absolutely. I really like that trust that you brought up, because you do have to have that trust in the group that can get it done.
Yeah.
My point is kind of broad, but along the same line as yours. It's just you're stronger in numbers. You work together more to gain more. You can incorporate ideas, so you think of new ways to fight what you believe in and to go forward with that. You are able to word more and get more personal experience, and with that you can improve together and make it better. Even with him in the slavery, or us with family advocacy, it's like, okay, well, now what can I do? And so I think that's what's so helpful about groups, is that you just all have so many ideas or different promptings, impressions that you can just work off of each other and then go together, and you're stronger in numbers. And so,
well, and I thought was interesting too is Wilbur did all of this work, and he raised so much awareness, and he kind of grew passion in other people, but it wasn't essentially his idea that stopped it. It was the lawyer James Stevens. But had Wilbur not created that group with that cohesion and with that drive, then, I mean, who knows if James Stevens would have ever thought in that different form of, in that different form of thinking about how to stop the slave ships.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, question 5. What parallels do you see between Wilbur and Captain Moroni in Alma 46? What is a Christian and professional family advocate, and how did Wilbur exemplify that? Can he be effective and Christ-like against such loud and often degrading voices? Some points that I had with that are both had their title of liberty. I kind of mentioned that before. Captain Moroni, obviously what he wrote, and then Wilbur, and he stood for what he knew. He was going to fight for that. And my next point was fight for truth and righteousness. They both got on their sides and put him first and knew the importance of that. And with the question to what is a Christian, I just said a Christian is someone who believes in God, which Wilbur clearly stated, and we know Moroni stated that, and they went out in Christ-like and always showing that Christ like others. So they just didn't state it, but they went out and did something about that. And then with the professional family advocate is someone who is well educated, knows the importance of it, and goes out and fights it and defends the family. And so Wilbur fought for what he knew. Moroni fought for what he knew, and he would go forward and not back down, which is easy. You go and you stick with it. And then another point I came across is when people can be so loud and degrading, it just makes me think that the spirit is a still small voice, and that's what we learn and how we are taught. And we need to remember that when we are defending the family, that we don't have to go out yelling, but we can just speak kindly, and we need to love and respect the other person and the feelings that they may have in the matter, while also approaching it with love ourselves, so that we can defend with just that love and that kindness, and to truly have that towards a person. Because if you don't, then it will eventually show. But if you do, it helps you to be able to speak a bit kinder to them.
That's really good. And it's interesting because I pulled that same thing out. Like, I, of course, talked about the parallels between them is they were both fighting for religion, freedom, and peace for men, and that they were both strengthened by their faith in God, and that they were able to rally those with the same beliefs to come and fight for what they believe. But I also, it was interesting because I wrote a little bit about how often people confuse conflict with contention. So when it comes to fighting for their issues and beliefs, sometimes people turn to contention right off the bat. But it's okay to have conflict, because, I mean, it's okay to have conflict, because out of conflict comes a lot, innovation. We understand as Christians that conflict is a fact of life, and we have learned how to, stand firm on our beliefs, and to do so without belittling other people. Like you said, we don't need to yell and scream and be violent. If we're speaking truths, and we're speaking them firmly and clearly, and we pray for the Spirit to bear testimony of what we're saying, our voices will be, they'll be heard, and they'll be strong, and they'll be loud enough so that our message is clear. So that was kind of what I pulled from there. I
agree. Something just really quick, kind of related, when you talk about the contention, something I just realized lately is that usually scared of contention. I'm like, I don't want to work with contention, but then I thought that made me almost weak, because I was like, I don't want to do contention, so I'm just not going to say anything. But then I finally realized not wanting the contention is okay, because we learned that the contention is of the devil, but the conflict and like the debate and speaking other sides is okay. So I just last week I learned, finally distinguish. I was like, contention is not good, and it's still the devil. So it's okay that I don't want that, but there's going to be conflicts when we're debating. It makes that difference. So it's just kind of cool. Something I realized lately.
That's a big thing to realize, especially now, because it gives you a platform to stand up on, that what you're doing is okay.
Yes, that was good for you. Okay, question 6. Marcia Barlow spoke on persuasive speaking and writing. Did Did Will others exemplify any of Marcia's ideas? How so?
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, on this one I was a little stumped. I'm sure that he did talk about self, but I was going back through the transcript, and I mean, I think the story of himself is just that he so strongly felt. I mean, he felt so personally strong about slavery. So that's kind of what I thought about with the story of self, and obviously the story of us. I actually pulled a quote from it that I felt was pretty perfect. He says, he's speaking to Parliament. He says, "I know that many of my honorable friends in this house have interest in the Indies. Others have investments in plantations. Others are ship owners, and I believe them to be man of humanity. I believe you all to be man of humanity. If the wretchedness of any one of the many hundreds of slaves stowed in the ship could be brought into view," and then he was cut off. But like he brought it in that this does affect you guys. I understand that you do have a part in the industry, but this is what's happening, and we need to be mindful of that. And yeah, so that's how I answer that question.
Mine was kind of the same, just like different parts he spoke at. In that, I think his biggest thing was making it personal stories. And again, he had his African American friend who was able to share things, and then Shiv, he gave personal stories through there. Um, and he was educated on what he was speaking about, which is good. And then also, he wasn't degrading, like you had kind of mentioned to others while he spoke. He spoke like why it was important and like just the understanding of that. So he wasn't rude, but he was just trying to make his point of like this is still wrong.
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting. Sorry, going back. This just popped into my head. In the beginning of the movie, his speeches were a little different. He was kind of like often in the house, like they would like poke fun back and forth, if you know what I mean. So like he did that in the beginning, but towards the end he had like a more serious, more respectful tone to other people. Like in the beginning he talked about like sharing half a bed or something with the gentleman's wife, but then towards the end, like he really like zoned it in on what matters. And I think some of that came, like his respect for people grew, even for his respect for humanity grew, which also included his opposition. So I thought that was
it was just like he's going off in the direction.
Yeah.
Okay, question. What role did the government policy and religious freedom play in the fight of slavery? Did you see other political systems being pro-family? Why not answer all questions? I started off with, I kind of broke it down. So I said the government, and Wilbert was on the board, and he was one who started to take off with it, and he worked. So he was the one moving it forward with the government, trying to get a different law to go forth, even with the law, like getting the flags on the boats changed and things like that. Policy is, like you said, you have to work with the laws to help case and work with what you have. And so he worked with the people, worked with laws, like I already mentioned, kind of with the government. Religious freedom, he turned towards God more, which helped him to know where he stood. He started to defend others because he knew who God was and that Christ-like love. And then also the kind of the pro-family in this that I got is they brought up the women and children, like we had already talked about, that mother and child. He said like they're coming because like they were hurt and they affected to seem to be enable others to participate more in like knowing that the family was hurt. And then he fought for the family because he hears about people getting burned and just working and things like that, and just wanting to help family members.
That's pretty much what I put. Like I pulled the same examples that you did. I think, but the only thing that I did different was that on the pro-family, when I was thinking about this question, I thought a lot about the church's stance on immigration. And I looked up the official statement because I couldn't remember exactly how it went. And it said, "We recognize an ever-present need to strengthen families. Families are meant to be together. Enforced separation of working parents from their children weaken families and damage society." And I thought that like even though this is talking about immigration, like this directly is talking about the slave trade. I mean, because families were being torn apart from Africa. I'm back. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
We've been having computer problems, and I'm like, I just need the computer to get through finals week, and then we can take it in to get. So let me just pull up my Word
I
document.
definitely understand with computer problems lately. I've had a lot myself.
I know.
And let's just go to question A. You thought Wilbur uses time on Earth. Well, sorry, actually, did you want to share more with 7? I didn't know if you had more.
I can't remember how far I was into it. So just a minute, I'm pulling it back up.
Okay. So, did you feel that Wilbur used his time on Earth well? How do you see him showing the elements of concentration that Elder Christofferson spoke of? Um, my first thing was yes, 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 just because I was so passionate about what he did. It
Mhm.
was so inspiring to me that like he went forward and he did it like so much ridicule, but he went forward and he made such a great change on the earth. And from Elder Christofferson, I took the quote of true success in this life comes in concentrating our lives, that is, our time and choices to God's purpose. So he went along with that of his own life and putting it to the time and the choices of God.
That's pretty much what I put too. I said that he sacrificed so much. Um, and like everybody did. I mean, William Pitt ended up dying, but I mean, not as a, I don't think as a direct cause of this, but he, you know, the stress on your body and everything and the worry. They all had their personal setbacks in their health, and both physically and mentally, as far as Wilbur. And they sort of became outcasts to society because what they were pushing for wasn't popular. And I mean, I said the same thing. Like, yeah, of course. Like, I don't think he could have done anything different. Um, and I found it was interesting that at first, was kind of, he thought he should just give his life directly to God. And then so he was kind of having that wrestle of should I do politics or should I do the work of the Lord? And he found a great happy medium. He found that he was doing the work of the Lord by pushing what he was pushing for for the end of slavery. So I thought
Yeah,
he found a good happy medium in his life.
I think that's the being educated and working with God that goes together, and which I love, which is why we work on.
Yeah.
Okay, question 9. Any other profound thoughts or personal insights from the movie that are related to child and family advocacy? Anything you could think of?
The biggest thing that I put was that the advocacy for an issue takes time. It didn't happen overnight. I think over the space of the movie, it was what, like 7, 8 years. I mean, it wasn't a short time, and that there'll be successes mingled with defeats, and that it's important to have a good support system and to keep everybody's spirits encouraged, because Wilbur had kind of found his rock bottom, and then Barbara came in and challenged him to do more and be better and keep going, and um, and he did, and that was it. That was the eventual like push to the end that got him through.
Because at first in his eyes he's failed, and then he went back at it and succeeded. So I agree. Some things I got, we've kind of already addressed them though, is just be loving, have compassion, be educated, and speak up, even if you're the only one speaking up at the time.
Yeah.
Okay, question 10. What was your understanding of the doctrine of the family at the beginning of the semester, and how has it changed? Personally, for me, and I just looking at it, it's like it was important, but I think I more said I knew it was important than actually knowing why or how it is. And throughout the semester and even within my majors, I've come to even love my own family more and understanding more of how we work together and why we're so important. And it's a bond. It's something that I realize is that Heavenly Father, He always says He will not leave us alone. He gives us people to help us in our life. And I think that's why family is so important. It's people who understand you, who you can talk to, who you know just love you. Obviously, there's different family dynamics, and I'm going personally from mine of just knowing that my family loves me no matter what. And that's just what's so special of how much they lead you and help you, and why it's just so important. And just throughout the semester, I've been realizing more of the why instead of just saying, oh yeah, I know it's important, because it's like I'm just building on my own testimony because obviously there's so much to it because it's emphasized so much even within our religion, just how much we talk about it. So I just become to learn more of why it is important.
Yeah. And I think that's similar to what I wrote down, is that I've always felt that family is important, and I've always strived to support families. But now with this class, I understand more so why it's important. And I've come to understand that there really is like a global assault on the family. It's not just here in the United States, it's not just even in North America, it's all over the world. And I feel like that really opened my mind, or opened my eyes to like what they're like, the work that's happening in the UN. I had never thought about the family, supporting the family on that level. Just never occurred to me. And so it was really interesting to learn how I can take action, not just in my home and in my community, but like on all of the different system levels. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay, last question. Picture your spouse and children, current for you, future for me, and write down some thoughts about how they will benefit from you taking this class. What are some things you do?
So for that one, I kind of wrote down what you said. I've come to have a better appreciation for my family now. Like I've started seeing them as like an inherited support system, and that I see what I have, and I want to defend it so other people have the opportunity to have it, and that it's just an all around better appreciation for my family, and the desire to work on the little things to strengthen my family personally. Basically,
Yeah, that's like what I said, and also just going what I said before is put more time and effort towards my family, encourage and always being there for them. It teaches them to love the gospel. Speaking up, that my children will see that and have the desire to speak up as well. And then always putting God first in all things, and teaching about the truth and the righteousness, and not being afraid to do that in my family and even outside of my family, so that they can see that, because those are the type of children we really need to be raising, especially in this day and age.
yeah. It's like the quote from Sister Beck that this generation is going to have to defend the family like no other. And if they don't know the doctrine and they don't know the principles, how do you expect them to do it?
Yep, that's why it's important for us to know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Katie, it's been good. Anything else you'd want to share?
No, I love that movie. I'm going to make my husband watch it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go and share it.
Yeah.
Well, good for the rest of your semester, and I'll go ahead and post this.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Bye.
Bye.